to A to Z garden art. And the goal for today is 2 people have put together an album for you of our garden art that we either have in our yard or we've seen around the world. And if there were 2 different people up here, it'd be completely different pictures. So all that to say, everyone has the capability to use their imagination and their inspiration to do your own garden art. What we hope today is you see some of these pictures and you think, hey, I can recreate that in my yard, or I have something similar. I can do that. This is not meant to be an exhaustive list by any means, because there'll be categories we left completely out that you go like, I should have mentioned that one. If you were up here today, which you might be someday, you can do that. But this, and I do want to say from the outset, we might actually go an hour. We're going to try to get as close to 9:45 as possible, or 10:45 as possible for the next break. If we don't, you'll still get a 15-minute break, because our next thing, which is a project, will not take 45 minutes. So if we go a little longer on the slideshow, don't worry, you'll still get a break. I'm Anita Green. I graduated class of 2014.
And I'm Cheri, and miracles never cease. I graduated in 2011.
Okay, so we're just going to take off. We're going to start with the letter A. And Danielle is thankfully being our slide person. Agave. To me, an agave is a beautiful piece of yard art if you are intentional about taking off the little pups that keep coming up. And about twice a year, I get out there with my spade and just whack them off. I either give them away or throw them away. So, agave.
This is also another form of an agave. I like to use things in the yard that you don't have to water and that will never die. So this is an example from Tucson, Arizona, the Tucson Botanical Gardens. And if you're ever in the area, it's a wonderful place to visit.
Angels in the garden. This actually was before Snowmageddon, when I had nice bushes as my draperies outside my kitchen window. Now my little angel's obscured by film because I need privacy. But this is an outdoor angel looking in. You probably have angels in your garden as well. They're fun and they're just calming.
Okay, and if you're one of those people that likes to break for garage sales, flea markets, or auctions, you might find metal and you think, wow, that looks like angel wings. I'm going to purchase that and throw it out in the yard. And that's what I did.
Letter B for...
Oh, that's me again. Okay, this is using bottles, and they used a bottle cutter and chopped this off, and that was in Tucson also. So quite a few of my slides are from Tucson because it was just such a creative garden to visit. But this was on a wall, and this is obviously a little more expensive. You might need a welder in the family, but we'll show you some other options on using bottles as we go along. This is in my yard, and bottle tree, and I had that done at my lake house, and so I have vintage soda bottles on there. You could use wine bottles or some of the, well, there's a bottle tree over in the corner. If you haven't seen that yet. And I think one of those spirals, I have those in my yard also, and I bought some of those in Fredericksburg. I didn't bring that one, but someone brought the spiral one back there, and they have a lot of those at Fredericksburg.
Where do you get the tree part from?
You know, I cannot remember where I bought that one. Maybe that place on South First that has all the, what's the name of that? Villa. Yes. I may have bought that years ago from there. I've had it so long I can't remember where I purchased this one. But I bet you can find those at Fredericksburg also. At that, you know, right when you roll into town on the left, and they have like things everywhere. I bet they have bottle trees in there. Yeah.
Cheri, what Kathy's trying to get.
Oh, yes.
There's a place between Sweetwater and Roscoe called Lottie's Pottery Pig, and carry the bottles. They carry bottle trees. I do not like that one or that one, but they do have some.
Okay, Lottie's
Lottie's Pottery Pig.
Pottery Pig.
Between Sweetwater and Roscoe.
Wow, who knew? Okay, I need to go visit.
Chicken.
The big
Okay.
chicken.
The big chicken, okay. Okay, this is another example of yard art that's very common. I really love this one because it's just loaded down with succulents, and it's also using a more sporty bicycle, not a vintage one. I see a lot of vintage ones, but I like using the sporty. So, and this was not mine, this was at Tucson Botanical Garden also.
Is that a basket up front? I can't tell.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes, and it's
Mine's
lined with that
cocoa.
coconut, or cocoa, yeah.
This was actually one that I got off Pinterest, and B for bicycle, B for basket, B for brick, B for billiard balls. I mean, this is so fun if you have an old broken bike and you just want to recreate some yard art. Make it look like it's a Harry Potter sort of coming out of the station, you know.
Okay, B is also for bowling balls. If you've ever read Neil Sperry's articles, he loves to use those in his garden. And I thought, hey, if it's good enough for Neil Sperry, it's good enough for me. So I purchased, you can buy these at Goodwill and Salvation Army and flea markets. But anyway, I just set them on rustic poles, and that just adds interest and coloring in the garden.
They ever fall over with our wind?
No, because they're actually pretty heavy. Mine have never fallen over. So, and this is another area in my yard. I kind of went nuts with the bowling balls, but if you have an area like me, I'm not the best gardener actually, but this one area is so shaded that I couldn't hardly get anything to grow, and I thought, well, I'll just throw some bowling balls and some bowling pins in there. We'll call it a day. And I had a guy yesterday come and a landscape person, he goes, I really like your bowling balls over on the side of the yard. So maybe he's tired of landscaping and he wants everyone to throw bowling balls and pins in their yard so they don't have to work as hard.
Okay, bird houses. We all have bird houses probably in our garden. This was actually in Alaska, and it was cold, and this little birdie was doing his best to peck through the little holes. It was for very small birds, so there was bird seed in there, but everyone, I'm sure, has their own version. Maybe even made one. So, bird houses. And this is in my, I'm sure a lot of people have bird baths, but have you ever seen a cat drinking out of your bird bath? This is Fred, my neighbor's cat, but he kind of lives in my yard. And I have a bowl of water outside the bird bath, on the ground, for him. But no, he likes to climb up there, and he looks like a Dr. Seuss with his little rat belly. And more bottle art. One year I carved a pumpkin, and I don't know, just to make my husband laugh, I put a beer bottle in and sent it to him text, but it worked.
Wait, is it empty?
Yeah, right.
Okay, some of us like to use very structural plants in our yards, and we thought this one was quite creative. I looked it up online, and it says that it's called a ficus microcarpa, aka bud ficus, aka little booty bonsai. So I took a photo of this one at Morton Botanical Garden in Palm Springs, and I even looked at, when I was looking it up, there's a website called sadanduseless.com, and they did a whole tour, if you go online, and it will show the world's greatest gallery of tree buds, and it's actually hilarious. So if you want to check that out, again, it's sadanduseless.com.
Okay, C is for crosses, which you can see between the windows that I have. A lot of you may have window boxes, which can also be a form of art. I've seen window boxes that were done with things that weren't living, so you didn't have to water them. And these are coleus, so also for coleus. But I'm sure you have crosses that you put all around your yard in different forms or materials.
Okay, C is for cross, and so this is just I'm not sure the name of the guy that, I should know. Does anybody have crosses from the guy that goes to all the quarries around the Abilene area and carves crosses out of stones. Anyway, I've purchased several of those and put in my garden, so it's just one example of the cross art.
How much was that? Do you mind me asking?
Probably close to 100. Okay, C is for cairns. I bought every single one of these over time at TJ Maxx, but I just love them, and I just have them sitting on the side of my fire pit out in my backyard. And these are on rods, so they don't fall off, and they're fairly heavy, so they don't blow around much. But anyway, that's one other way you can use rocks in your garden. Oh, this is also my photo. Okay, C is for candles, and that's another way to use art in your garden. Just, they're aromatic if you have a scent in them, or just the ambiance of having the glow in your garden, especially in the evenings.
Did that come pre-drilled, or did you drill the hole?
Pre-drilled. Mm-hmm.
But you could easily drill your own.
Right, yes. I'm not a DIYer, but I'm a shopper, so I purchase all my items.
Okay, so C is for container. This was actually in El Verano, which is kind of real near, it's basically Sonoma, California. But on our little Airbnb, on her porch, and I think this is a fig or ficus, I'm not quite sure. I did a leaf snap. But it was wonderful because there's no ground there, but this thing is obviously thriving. So C for container, this little galvanized metal. This is actually out of Perini's. You may have seen this at some point. But I love what they did with the whiskey barrel. Those are mostly, I think, artificial. So again, no watering, but love the feathers in it and the lighting behind it. So
They have to bring that in, do they?
I don't know. That's a great point.
Can that be weathered?
Or maybe they cover it. I don't know. So when I see wet cement, that's like yard art screaming at me. So this is what we did in 2020. Had a remodel of our backyard, which was trash. Now it looks a lot better. But I just love wet cement and leaving my mark on something. So this is actually just to remind me, you know what, this is great, but there's so much more coming. If you're a believer, you just look forward to that day. So the T is actually, I'm a big St. Francis fan. The T is the taw. And if you look up TAU, taw, there's a lot of definitions for it, but basically you're just identifying yourself as there's more, there's resurrection coming. So I like this reminder. So. Okay, so D was a little hard for us. We came up with designed walkways.
D is for difficult.
This was taken in 2016 when we first made this in our backyard. Those rose bushes are now huge. Everything's huge. You can hardly see the walkway. And the moss didn't live very long, obviously. But everything else is there. The pavers, those were given to me free by my neighbor. And then we had the rock put in. But it just goes all the way around to the side yard and into the front. So that's an easy fix.
Okay, keeping with the D for designed pathways, this is at Chandler Garden in Weatherford, and I'm sure most of you have been there. If you haven't, it's fun to visit, and this is a very simplistic way to use broken or chipped terracotta, and I love the simplicity of this one. And then this one is, let's see. Oh, Anita, is that Anita?
No, that's your.
Okay. This is another designed pathway, and it's more of the lush, throw the stone down and choose your plants, and, hopefully it will overgrow. This looks like a shaded area, but it did quite well.
Okay, E. Edging. This is in the stockyards downtown Fort Worth, and I just liked what they did. I did little limestone blocks that made a little star in Texas, and you could do seasonal flowers in there.
Okay, and this is just a small form of edging that you can take a step further, where you have crushed granite, which is very versatile. You can throw plants in it, water it, edge with it, and they just took the very bottom of the wine bottles and turned them upside down and buried them in the crushed granite. Okay, and this is in my backyard again. Most of us either have seen Abilene brick or have it. And I have a lawnmower man that I love, but every once in a while all the debris blows in there, and I got tired of that, so I just lined it all with Abilene brick, and it keeps a lot of the debris out when he's blowing off my patio. This was probably a day where he hadn't come in, because it looks like there was a lot of debris still on the patio, but anyway.
Okay, this next series of slides are these darling fish planters in Italy, a little town called Beatrice sul Mare, real close to Amalfi. And just happened to see this little courtyard kind of overlooking the valley. It's absolutely beautiful, but these are they're so striking, so you can just advance through a couple of them. They're all different. There's a picture of kind of what it's overlooking. Of course, Italy is known for ceramics, so it just was appropriate to see these guys.
And this is, we're still on, are we on? F's? Yes. So, F, we just found a photo of a fish fountain. So, and that's in Austin. I think I've seen Danielle and Ken several times at the Austin Pond Society weekend that's held every 2 years.
It's actually back to every year.
Oh, is it every year now? Wow. Anyway, if you haven't done that, you can look it up on the website and visit there, because not only do they have wonderful ponds, but most of the people that enjoy ponds also have a beautiful garden. So you're getting 2 for 1.
And share plants. And share plants.
Oh, and share plants, yeah. Okay, this is in Tucson, Arizona at a shopping area. Imagine that. And it's a way to create art from a plant that you have. I'm not artistic enough to draw it on myself, but who knew a Sharpie and a cactus, you got some yard art there, because they drew a face on the cactus, literally. So I thought that was fun. And then this is in my yard again. I still got some of those crosses, but then on the side it's fun to find face pots and, you know, grow hair out of them or whatever. I love face pots.
I've never seen it.
Oh, really?
Really?
Okay. And this is me shopping again at a junk place, and I found this large funnel that was already green and it already had a hook on the top. And I thought that would be fabulous to put plants in and hang on my back patio as you exit and go out of my backyard. So I have a big green funnel out there, and I've enjoyed that for a long time.
Okay.
I'm really sorry that our audio is not working, because imagine it's playing the Hallelujah song. La, 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 la. This was actually something I bought out of that McVeigh nursery in Roscoe. And it was metal art, just this cute little frog. I'm sure you have some frogs in your garden. And it's just fun. When the wind blows, it really does move. Not quite as severely as I had it moving.
Okay, and F is for frames. I've seen quite a few people use frames in their gardens, and it just creates depth or frames out something that you want to make as a focal point. I think it's quite fun to use frames.
Sorry. G.
Oh, G.
Oh, G. Okay, G is for gnome. This is a creepy gnome, and he's kind of got eyeliner. It's way too thick on his eyeballs, but anyway, and I don't know, that day, you know how sometimes you have remorse over what you purchased? I took him home and I thought, what was I thinking? But anyway, he's a little creepy gnome in my backyard.
So you didn't give him a makeover yet, huh?
No, actually, over the years, he's lost some color and the eyeliner is gone. So, thank goodness.
Who all's been down to Jacob's Well Natural area in Wimberley? Anybody? Yeah, it's fantastic. This is actually right before you would walk out to where there's artesian water and underwater caves. It's really, really pretty. Wimberley's about 3.5, maybe 4 hours if you take your time, but it's worth it. This is an example of an inexpensive greenhouse. Now, basically what they're trying to do is keep deer out, I'm sure, or animals, other animals, but I like this because this would be very inexpensive to do if you wanted to grow stuff and protect it from some of the critters. We live on a creek, a dry creek bed mostly, but we have a lot of critters. So this is an example of an inexpensive one.
And this is an example of a little more expensive one with the rock base and the, all the shading on the top and
I know that house.
yes, and this is on the Austin contour, also in Bastrop, 30 miles southeast of Austin. So not only are you traveling through Austin, but the outer areas also. It takes a full weekend to do that tour, but it's really fun. Okay, G is for gates. And this is at the Tucson Botanical Garden, and it's just an example of a very, very expensive gate done with intricate ironwork and the rocks literally put in. I love the natural aspect of that. Sometimes it's not about color, it's about just the natural elements. So, G is for glass. Most of you have seen the vintage glass insulators, and this is just another small bottle tree, and actually there's a loop on the bottom of mine where you can hang it from a tree upside down and do something different with it, but I have mine turned up leaning against a tree with some of the colorful insulators, and then I have quite a few other insulators that are lining a walk path, but I don't have that on a slide.
Anybody have a gazing ball in their yard? Yeah, a lot of gazing balls are popular. They're fun. They're beautiful. This is not, I don't have this one anymore because someone unnamed weed-eated around it. But gazing balls are beautiful. They just reflect a lot of the blue sky, the green grass, all kinds of colors. And you can put them anywhere. This was actually an old bird bath topper that didn't have the topper anymore, so the little stem fit right down in there.
What does that cat?
Yeah, Fred.
Okay, we were thinking of H's and we came up with hammock, and this is a more natural, non-colorful, but I know we've all seen the colorful hammocks, but that can be part of your yard art, or you're enjoying laying in your hammock and enjoying all your yard art in the garden.
Hummingbird feeders, oh, aren't they just lovely? Hummingbirds are so fun to watch, and all different kinds of feeders. So here's just one example. Got this one on the internet. And this is in Colorado at sunrise. So just pretty.
Okay, I couldn't find a good picture of where they've used garden hoses to literally cursive write things on walls. I've seen that before, but I could never find a slide on that. But this is at the Tucson Botanical Garden also, and they just kind of accented a color using a yellow hose, and then the tire up above has some greenery. So they just have all these decorative elements within that one picture that I thought was interesting.
Horns, H is for horns. Also got this little guy at McVeigh Nursery. It was lying on the ground and it had something broken on it. And the lady that owned it, she's passed away, but she said, well, you can just have that because it's broken. I won't be able to sell it. So hung it in my back of my secret garden.
Or you can use a musical horn, throw some Christmas lighting on it, and have a festive flair.
I was difficult.
Oh, yes. We had to come up with itty bitty fairy garden. So, anyway, there's quite a few things going on in this one. They've got the creepy gnomes, some mushrooms that are super popular right now if you've shopped anywhere in town, and the plates. So it's a pretty good example of a lot of different garden art packed into an itty bitty fairy garden. Oh, and this is another one where they put it in a wheelbarrow. And I kind of like how they made a wall out of one of those, concrete?
Cinder block.
Yeah, cinder block. And they painted it. So it was kind of interesting for all of the DIYers in here.
This one was taken off the internet, just another example of the fairy gardens, which are fun. The little girl's reading to her dog. I love that. Another one from the internet.
We thought this one was quite interesting. If you want to do a larger scale fairy garden for your grandkids to enjoy, you can make it go up a tree and all around the tree, and they can all have fun and move miniatures around. And we thought that was kind of a different perspective for a fairy garden. And I is for ironworks. If you like to go to flea markets or auctions, and you might find an old piece of a tractor or whatever, and turn that into yard art. This one looks like sun to me, and it's in Palm Springs, California at Morton Botanical Garden, and probably a little pricier to purchase these, but I thought it was interesting.
Iron Man. This was in San Angelo last summer. Cheri and I went down there, and there was an outdoor kind of art display of local art, mainly kids, I think. But it was just all kinds of fun art, so I for Iron Man.
This is a more expensive piece, but it also creates sound. So and I actually have a neighbor that has something similar to this, and again, I think it would require welding, but beautiful and makes sound, so I like that to throw in there for expensive art. Oh, okay, this is behind, if you've ever been to Das Peach House in Fredericksburg, there's a hidden pond behind there, and there's this fire pit there that's all these flowers etched into it, and to me that is part of garden art, and at night it's flaming and you can see the flowers and it's rusted metal. I just love it.
J for junk.
Yeah, J for junk. Yes, J for junk, sorry.
Oh, is that what?
Yeah. Oh, this is back in Austin. Keep Austin weird. So we've got a lot of
Junk.
junk, and it's mainly not sterling silver.
Silver plate.
Silver plate. Silver-plated platters and urns and shoes and whatever you want to throw up there. And then this is just some things in my backyard. So some more iron and just junk thrown in the backyard. J is for jug. So you can use a lot of green jugs or blue jugs, whatever you can find. And this one was in Austin at the Pond Society tour. Mm-hmm.
Did I skip one?
Yeah, go back one. This is a keyhole garden at Zilford Botanical, again in Austin, which is a really fun place to go to. I had a lot of pictures from there, but I like this viewing area. Of course, this would be an expensive viewing area, but you can make one even on a smaller scale with any kind of material, but just to kind of frame a little area you wanted to highlight.
And then we've got a couple more examples of just different materials to use for keyhole gardens, and several of us have studied keyhole gardens over the years, and so many materials that you can make with. But that's part of your garden art.
Who doesn't love a kitty in the garden? Year of 2020, Lug Master Gardening approving a project that several of you helped on refurbishing an older lady's yard, and she eventually didn't, she passed away. But this little kitty showed up every day and sat on equipment like he didn't want us to work. So, of course, I'm not really a cat person, but I have all these cat pictures, but he helped.
Okay, and this is an example of a key wind chime. So we were coming up with K words. Some of the letters are more difficult than others.
Okay, this is made out of Legos. Cinderella is made out of Legos, and the flowers behind her. This is in Madison Square Park in Manhattan one year, 2014. But there were all these Lego structures that were just amazing. So go to the next one. It's got the flowers. You can see how they did them, but isn't that creative? I mean, wouldn't, you can make some of those and just plop them in your yard.
Okay, L is for legs. If you'd like to. They're red gardening boots, and around the Halloween, you can change it into a witch, I guess. I don't know. Use different shoes. Okay, this is at Chandler Gardens again, and Ellis for log. And so if you have a tree that's a stump or a tree that's rotting out, maybe don't chop it down. Maybe throw some succulents in it, decorate it. So anyway.
Lighting, Ellis for lighting. If you ever go to Winslow, Arizona, if you're an Eagles fan, standing on the corner in Winslow, Arizona, stay at La Posada Hotel, eat at the Turquoise Room. You will not be sorry, trust me. But this was some lighting out in one of the hallways outside of at the property. And I just love things, and you'll see some more pictures later that Cheri has too. Things that just reflect this light pattern. And I had a solar light that used to work great till the solar part broke. I'm going to try to replace it. But the patterns are just so intriguing and calming.
Okay, this is actually, it looks like pipes, but it's really bamboo stalks. And when I moved into my house that I'm in now, I had a whole section of bamboo that was growing way up on the side of the house. So I inherited my bamboo. So I went online and I asked somebody in a forum, how do you eradicate bamboo? And they said, here's the responses or comments were, good luck, I'll be praying for you, it's satanic, you'll never get rid of it. So anyway, this is a great use of that bamboo that you can't get rid of, because I have paid someone to remove it, and guess what? It's all back with a vengeance. So I don't think you can remove it. But anyway, notice the uplighting. It's just cool how you can use a square terracotta pot, all different sizes of bamboo with uplighting. It's just neat. I just love it. And it's minimalistic too.
So this is in my backyard, again, yard lighting. We didn't have yard lights for many years, decades, and finally had those put in a couple years ago. And this is just framing a statue that was in my grandmother's garden. So I love looking out at night and seeing this lit up. This was taken from the internet using natural material. This could be an indoor or outdoor light. The cord's probably hidden behind, maybe stapled on the backside, something like that. But that's a neat thing to do with just an old piece of wood.
Okay, this is my backyard patio at night. And again, we were talking about how you can use lighting. You can choose very specifically your lighting for outdoors to create ambiance, shadowing. And this is just a good example of how you can create that ambiance at nighttime. Okay, M is for mirrors. So if you're popular enough to be invited to an outdoor garden party and you need to check and make sure you're looking good, well, you can do that on the way in with a garden mirror. And that's one functional way to use that, but also it will reflect what's behind and make everything appear to be larger if you've got a small space. So, and here's a more expensive one that's actually inset into the stone, Moroccan style. I like that a lot.
This is a mosaic. This is my new gazing ball, way away from the weed eater, and mosaic and mirrors. So this actually just does some of the great reflecting and refracting of light when the sun hits it in the afternoon.
Are they all mirrors?
No, some are just kind of like those the blurry ones. They're just sort of, they don't really have the mirror on them.
Okay, and this is M for mosaic, and guess where this was taken?
Pond tour.
Yes, Austin, Texas, back at the pond tour. Keep Austin weird with the commode that says out of order at the top. So if you have, an old commode sitting around, you might want to mosaic that thing and throw it in your yard. This one is in my yard. I just like this one. It's out of clay and green, and it makes me smile. It reminds me of the West Texas wind.
Moon face.
It's a moon face. Yeah, M for moon face.
Okay, that outdoor art place in San Angelo, M is for mural. If you had a protected place, you could hang something like this and it would last. But you can do a lot of fun things with murals.
Okay, we came up with natural on this, and this is another it's kind of hard to see. Some of our slides are small, and I apologize for that, but anyway, this one is in Austin, and it is a great example of monochromatic. It's got horns in it, it has agave, dead agave, spikes, leaf, I don't know if you call it a leaf, but
Yeah.
anyway. And then there's a wood chunk at the bottom. So it's a very modern, natural arrangement. And so again, it's not always about color. This is more about texture, monochromatic, and minimalism, really.
This was, again, at the Zilker, you can't see it at the top, but just taking some flat stones and logs and then hanging some ferns behind them. Some of you might have flat stones, and you could build a smaller little area of that and some old logs. This is my backyard, and that was 2022. Somebody said, it might have been Beth Hamity that said, Greg's Blue Mist is like crack for monarchs. Well, I'm not kidding you, hundreds. And of course, this year my Greg's Blue Mist looks atrocious with the heat, but maybe it'll come back in the fall and I'll get more of these. But it's so fun to just have nature in your backyard. That's what we're striving for, birds and butterflies.
What was the name of the?
Well, Greg's Blue Mist, or Mist Flower, I think it's called, but I call it Greg's Blue Mist. And it is perennial.
Okay, O is for orbs, and these are some just rusted orbs that I threw in a pot. And again, you don't have to water those things.
Okay, this is at Solana Beach. We're calling this section oddities. So this was an old piece of furniture, apparently, or there's something that may look like furniture, and just making a huge succulent bed out of it.
And we're back in Austin with the crazy piano and the dog sitting there enjoying eating the heat underneath the piano. And then another focal point is this pink sink, and I guess all that's missing is the yellow rubber duck floating in the sink.
That would be cute if they added that.
No. And then you may have seen this, but you can create little vignettes around with using the rock, the crystals or glass, colored glass, I guess, in bags, and they created this stream. And up at the top, it's not a very good photo, but up at the top is a metal swan, so it looks like a river. Okay, P is for palette. And I do a lot of terracotta in my yard, just mainly because my brick is that color. And so I found this palette one time that had the yellow already on it, the orange on it, because I'm not a DIYer and I don't even like to paint. So it was already done for me. So I created this little thing by nailing the metal up at the top, putting my plants in the top, and then I've got oxalis at the bottom, and I've got some other plants out of the terracotta pipes at the bottom. And then I have a water fountain beside. So it's kind of like an area that in the morning, if it's cool enough, I haven't done it this summer, I sit out there and read my Bible and pray. So it's a great little oasis for me. Okay, this is at Chandor Gardens, and it's, I guess where we're doing P for pot, and so we chose a strawberry pot. And some of you may grow strawberries, but it seems like more people around here use them for succulents. So anyway, they just had a really pretty one.
This was taken just in Chelsea Market area in New York, and I just love the fall theme. And you could use real plants in the terracotta, you could use artificial. Hay bales are easy to come by. Just a fun little area of color.
Okay, this is back in my yard, and I, around the holidays, Thanksgiving, I just added my large orb and put asparagus fern in the bottom, draping out with some pumpkins.
And one year, this was copied, a friend of mine did this at her home, outdoor, and I just loved it. Kind of pricey because of those gourds and pumpkins are so expensive, but it lasted all season until I got ready to throw them away. But this is fun just to leave outdoors on if you have an outdoor table.
Okay, Q. The Q is a hard one, so we came up with quilt. You can use quilts in your garden or in, a tabletop scape. So we just threw a quilt out for color, and there it is. Okay, we also, Q is for quartz, so you can use rocks, different crystals, and throw them out in your yard for points of interest. Okay, P is for...
R.
Oh, R. Well, it could have been P for painted rock.
Yes,
but
it could have been.
R for rock.
R for rock.
R is for rock. Okay, so when 2020 hit, I decided, you know what? I'm going to be outdoors more, and I'm going to go, travel and hike in some of these national parks. So I've been doing several of those lately. And so a friend and I painted some rocks to leave in Saguaro National Park when we went several years ago. So this is a sun rock, and we left it there, but I like the shadowing of the photo. And then here's another one we painted, and we left it in one of the saguaros out there in the national park for someone else to find and enjoy and take. And we did paint Abilene, Texas on the back, just so it's kind of fun to exchange rocks that way. And then my little sister, who is a DIYer, one year she gave me a butterfly puddler. You can just throw it out in your butterfly garden and barely put any water in the bottom. It's a pie pan that's painted. And she did all these strawberries, and the butterflies will, land on the rocks and drink. So it's a form of yard art. I know. Yeah, I have a love-hate relationship with my little sister. Okay, and R is for rocks again. I love to collect rocks, and a lot of this is, well, there's one rock in the left, and then there's also slag glass, so that's S, but anyway. So I just, again, you don't have to water it. The light shines on it. It's great color. I like using a lot of rocks in my yard. Okay, S is for shelf. And again, I junk every once in a while, and I found this old shelf, and I thought, well, by the shelf, you gotta decorate it. So I added a bunch of plants, and there's even a little ashtray in there. You could put a little water for another puddler. Anyway, so S is for shelving. You can do that in your garden.
Sun faces. This was purchased in Fredericksburg at that metal place we've mentioned on Main Street. And I just like it because some of the sun faces are kind of creepy. Are they looking angry? Hacked off? I don't know, because they're so odd. But this one's happy. I like it. Seating. Anybody been to the Starlight Hotel in Terlingua? So you may have seen this guy. It's just hilarious to sit down in it. It's wrong, doesn't it?
Oh, we just took a few more photos of different seating, but we thought that it was pretty hilarious because of the boat in the background. And people got super creative with this one, with the buoys and the boat.
More pictures of seating. It's by my side entrance. This was taken in Alaska at a place we stayed, and of course they could have flowers in August, but I liked how they had the red accents and just kind of some natural things in there.
We're back in Tucson with a mosaic bench. A lot more expensive, but I have a friend that did a table, not a large one, it's not near as big as that, but she spent a lot of time on it and it turned out gorgeous. So it is definitely doable.
So S is for statues. And this would be an example of a very expensive statue, but I just thought it was appropriate to put it in because of Maui. We're just all keeping Maui in our thoughts and prayers lately, but this is a peaceful, serene, elegant, graceful statue. You probably have maybe some concrete statues in your yard or metal or something else.
And this one was at the pond tour also, and it's a really fun example of one that pairs well with the pond, which is the mermaid. and it patinas over time, so I like that also. This is Austin also. It's someone that really loves statues because they have all their little animal friends all together. So it's limitless statues. And then this is an example of a way more expensive one, but I like the shadowing that it creates on the pathway. So you can do a lot with shadowing.
S is for signs, so I won't take the time to read all those, but we all probably have garden signs or signs somewhere in our home. Anyway, the very bottom, live life in full bloom. So there you go. This was a sign taken in Luckenbach, which is a very tiny area, but it had all these signs. It just struck me as funny. But if you go down to Wimberley, you're going to see the next one. Don't take it to that extreme. So. This was on that couch. I didn't know if you could see it before, but Garden of Whedon.
Okay, this is a more expensive one that you can do, but you can do signage using ceramic tile. And this was at the Tucson Botanical Garden. And I love the choices that they made with the tile because it looks like swirl at the top and then the ocean or the water at the bottom, and it says, "I thank the water for nourishing my soul." I just thought that was pretty. And then this one, it's a little bit hard to see because it's in the shade, but it says, "Life began in a garden," and it goes way back to Genesis. And then there's actually an iron cross in the background, so I love that photo. Okay, we're stretching it, but this was going to be T for terracotta, but but there's also some junk yard art where you can throw metal wiring and create flowers, and then the little glass beads are on there. And no, I did not make those. I purchased them, but I thought they were fun to throw in a pot. And this is in one of my side yards, and it's just an example of terracotta where you just have the terracotta wall, you have the terracotta pot hanging off the wall, and the terracotta sign that says joy. And then this is in my backyard also, so I do use a lot of terracotta. I did have a bird house made out of terracotta, and it broke. And so instead of throwing it away, it had kind of a neat pattern on it. So I just threw all the broken pieces in the inside of the pot with some other rocks and fossils and created some more yard art. This is a photo, it might have been in Austin, I cannot remember, but this is such a great picture of terracotta because there's so many different shades of the terracotta. And then if you'll notice, it's almost like, where's Waldo? Where are all the owls? There's owls all throughout this photo. I just love it.
This is another example of terracotta. I took this back in July when we had such wonderful rain. And all the crepe blooms, I just liked how they framed that walkway right there. But there's terracotta brick, Abilene brick back there. If you have a bunch of Abilene brick, you can make a little walkway. And all the strawberry pot and some big terracotta pots.
Okay, and this is a photo out of a magazine, but I thought it was a great example of what you can do with terracotta pots, because it's terracotta pot totem poles. So I guess T is for totem pole also.
Topiaries, this was taken at the Cloisters in New York, but you've probably seen, or made similar things for your yard, maybe the way you do your bushes. This was in Italy, and I liked kind of the topiary over here, but also the trellis effect that this was having with that vine, and I'm not sure what that one was. The next picture, I think, shows, let's see, the next picture. These are star jasmine. There were some poles that were growing, and it just, it was on their patio. It was beautiful. Now this is an example of a very inexpensive trellis. I've had this there for years because, and the picture doesn't really give it justice, that little top arch, the hummingbirds will perch up there while they're going to eat. And then they go back and guard, and then they eat, and they make everybody fly away when they try to come get a drink. So this probably, $10 at Walmart, And a tower, you had a little metal tower. for your herbs to grow up, or this tower. So I put this in here because Cheri, this was 2022, we had painted rocks to go to France. And I got COVID 48 hours before the trip, so lost out on that. But they took my rock and treated it as a flat Stanley. I got all these pictures. It was so fun. Flat Stanley at the Mona Lisa. I mean, it was just hilarious. But there's my flat Stanley rock in front of the Eiffel Tower.
Okay, U is for urns, and this is another example of, I think they actually created almost like a it's hanging out of a tree, but anyway, it's got succulents. And I have a couple, well, actually I have about 3. There's a place in Granbury that you can buy these, this lady collects all these old urns and she etches jack-o'-lanterns out of them. And so one year I put a whole bunch of them out on my back patio and had succulents hanging out of them, and it looked really neat. And I could not find that photo. I really wanted to put that in here, but anyway.
Another picture of an urn, the beginning, this was just taken Monday, but in April, I just had a volunteer grass coming up, Mexican feather, popped it in there, little tiny, you could hardly see it. So several months later, I mean, it's just doing great, but urns in your bed are a pretty yard art. V is for vines growing up. This is a little Jackmani clematis.
And this is in my backyard, and I found some vintage fencing. And what do you do with those mesquite trees? Well, you throw that vintage fence around it. My husband tied it up, and we put a tangerine crossvine on it, and made that mesquite tree look a little better. And okay, this. We were pretty proud of the V's on this one because this stands for Vintage Verde Vessels. And these are, again, junking for old, vintage pots that are green or verde.
Again, a van is your yard art. Who would have thought to just drive up a van? Maybe you did. Anybody ever have one of these by any chance? My uncle did. So this is just in Hawaii, just a yard art. They used it for something, but I don't know what. Water. Anybody been to Trevi Fountain? Yes. You're not going to want one this big, okay? So, but this is W for water. This is a much smaller version that's affordable. Just a little fountain. I believe I purchased this locally several years ago. So.
Okay, this is a little bit hard to see, but we're back at the Austin Pond Society. Y'all might not even need to go because you've seen everything I have out of my slide. No, not really. Anyway, if you notice, there's a face again, and he's spouting water out, and then they put a log on the ground, and his hands are grasping the log. So if you can see that, it's kind of a cool water feature.
Oh, there's the
Yeah,
Yeah.
I see it.
The face is top right hand corner. Okay, this is in, let's see, I think this is in Joshua Tree. Yeah, I hiked that Joshua Tree, and there was a lady that was doing a workshop on sun prints at her house, and she had all these wheelbarrows parked outside in her yard, and they were all hand-painted, intricately hand-painted, and I only put one of the wheelbarrows in there, but they all had different cacti in them, and we did sun prints and enjoyed all of her wheelbarrows and her wheelbarrow art.
Wind spinners, some of you probably have these in your yard. There's all kinds of inexpensive ones, plastic. They're just calming to watch. We get a lot of wind around here, so they work, and they don't need water. Wind chimes. Now, sky art can be a thing in your garden. One day I was out in my garden, and I just happened to look up, and there was a perfect X with airplanes. So it went in the X category.
And Anita found this fence that's made out of X's. So we put that in there, and again, you see her little flat Stanley rock that's traveling around. This was at Gavarni, which I was able to go to Monet's garden and see the real water lilies that he paints. And it was amazing, but there's rock and with an expanse.
Or you could say trellis.
Yes. Oh, yes. I guess so.
Oh, yeah, trellis would have been good too. So again, this is in Central Park, a very expensive mosaic. But I do like the word because this is kind of what, I don't know if you do this, but when we see all these pictures, it just sparks in us things that we can go home and do with things we already have, which is even better. But just imagine, use your imagination, and it doesn't have to be on this grand scale. It's going to be just as great in your backyard.
And X is for X-rated. But thankfully, they used greenery to cover up the private parts, and he's out gardening because maybe that's the Garden of Eden picture, before clothing. I don't know. But anyway, that was from Italy. Oh, this is another face pot I have in my backyard. It's a larger one with some yucca hanging out of the top. So Y's. Y was very hard, so we chose yucca again, and then I said, oh, I've got it, Anita, yellow jacket nests. So if you have yellow jackets flying around and you spray them and kill them all, then you can take the nests and use them inside and out. I decorate with them, so it's kind of fun, kind of different.
They're pretty. And yoga. I mean, doing yoga outside when you can is such a relaxing experience. And the people, what I love about yoga is that there's no judgment. People are in various forms of child pose right here. Some are really good at it, some can't quite get there. No judgment. You are just getting out, enjoying nature, stretching, making your health better, and everything like that. So lots of yoga.
Okay, so we're going on into the yard art after talking about yoga with all these frogs that are in yoga poses. They just make you laugh, don't they?
And lastly,
okay, Z is for zinc. Not sure if it's real zinc, but we had to use the Z somehow. So again, you can go to auctions, you can go to flea markets, and find really interesting metal type or zinc containers, and on a larger scale. And at first we thought that was herbs, but then we decided, no, that's a non-flowering geranium. Maybe we need to pull it out in the sunlight a little bit more, but anyway, it still looks pretty.
Z is for Zen. And I did this in my backyard with some stray pavers that I had because there is a spigot at the very bottom in the ground that workers, anytime they would come to my yard, I don't know why, they just loved knocking it over and breaking it. So they would have to fix it, of course. But one year I just created this thing, it's still there, to just prevent people from hitting that. And it's very zen, and I put the bird bath topper on top for the butterflies that you see eating the crack. And I think this was from the internet, just another using concrete pavers and slabs.
And this is a picture in Tucson of a Zen garden in a pretty large scale. But you can create a lot smaller ones. But the whole idea is minimalism, tranquility, peace, relaxation. And you see the ripple in the sand, and you see the interesting stones turned in a different direction, which, creates a different look. But I thought that was very zen and relaxing looking. I like it.
And this is just kind of an image of things to come after the break, that we're going to be recreating our own Zen gardens. Well, not everyone, but in groups. So just a couple pictures showing you different items. See the stamp of the word love.
This is a photo of, and it's back there on the table. It's a commercially done rain chain, or rock chain, rain chain. But there's websites online where if you are a DIYer, I bought mine, but you can make rain chains. It's a little more difficult and it's time consuming, but you can create your own rain chain, but it's a natural element and also garden art.
I think that's the last one. So thank you for letting us go over a little bit. Go ahead and take a break, 15 minutes, and we're going to